for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. And all content here on Sports Hub STL is provided by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Stefan, Caray, and Brenden Schaeffer here. And boy, what a fun it was at Great American Ballpark. Game one of the Cardinals, a 6-0 shutout. And our first comment, offense on the road. I don't know if that tells the whole story. I think through the first 8 innings, it felt like, oh boy, here we go again. Another small lead Cardinals. Can they pull through? But a few things happened later on in the game that really helped them pull away from the Reds.
Absolutely, and you love to see the home run barrage. It's something that we think we should probably be seeing in a place like Great American Ballpark, Stefan. It's the time to slug. We talked about this series maybe being that for the Cardinals, and it took some time to get there. It was a very close, contested game throughout. You credit Miles Mikolas for his outing, as Samuel commenting. Is he trying to earn an extension with the eyes emoji? Don't know if we'd go that far yet, though, but I will say, and you can't do this. We always talk about you can't just take numbers you don't like and get rid of them. But if you just isolate that one bad game in Boston, Mikolas has a 2.39 ERA in every other start combined. That's not probably the narrative, Stefan, that a lot of us have in our minds about Miles Mikolas this season, but he's largely done the job the Cardinals have asked of him outside of one day that was obviously bad. But other than that, he's given them a chance to win, and nice to see him finally get a win when it hadn't been the case previously with the offense matching up with his days where he pitches pretty well.
Well, the Cardinals were 0-5 coming into today when Miles Mikolas has been on the mound, and he deserved every bit of this win. On the other side, Brady Singer was looking to be one of the first Reds pitchers in a long time to win his first 5 decisions. He was stymied today, but still pitched incredibly well. So the Cardinals did just enough to get that win here in game number 1. And it's good to see them getting their 3rd road win, their 2nd shutout victory of the year. But let's talk about the home runs. We talked about it ad nauseum, about how important it was going to be for this team to need to slug. Now, you look around at the guys that were slugging the baseball, it's a bit of a surprise, right? Mason Wynn with a pair of home runs, Victor Scott with a home run, Lars Nootbaar, probably the odd man out in terms of who was surprising you from leaving the ballpark in this game. But they're getting it done. And the bottom of the order did a really nice job. Pozo with a multi-hit game, Scott with a multi-hit game, and Mason Wynn looks like he should be the number 2 hitter for as long as he wants to be the number 2 hitter moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know what the lineup's going to be, Steph, and obviously Cardinals playing a doubleheader today, and Ollie Marmol's going to have to get some guys who were out of game 1. They're going to be into game 2 because you want to keep everybody fresh. I might like to see Mason Wynn be a guy who plays both games and plays the second game as part of that number 2 hole in the lineup. We'll see what the lineup ends up looking like. But certainly on paper, like, you can understand the appeal. He's a guy that when he impacts the baseball, he's hitting it hard. He hit a couple of missiles today out of the ballpark at Great American Ballpark. And also you'd like to think of him as a guy that can get on base. Maybe last year didn't quite fully show that skill set. I think it's one that's going to improve for him as his big league career evolves. But also the notion of him as a 2-strike hitter. You like having guys in the top 30 of your lineup that battle the way that Mason Wynn battles. And I think that's another aspect of his game that you can appreciate alongside a Nootbaar, alongside a Donovan. Like, think about the way that those 3 guys work pitches starting off games. It's not to say that a guy like Wilson Contreras doesn't do that. He had, to me, still the most memorable walk of the Cardinals season when he bat flipped it before a home run behind him. But there are a lot of or it was the Gorman double behind him, I believe, in that game where Gorman had the 3-run double late. I feel like getting those 3 guys at the top, Nootbaar, Mason Wynn, and Brenden Donovan, could also be another really good way to work the opposing pitcher. That's not an easy part of the lineup to navigate if you're on the other side.
No doubt about it. And the Cardinals snap a 5-game winning streak for the Cincinnati Reds. It felt like throughout the course of that game, okay, well, they've only scored 1 run, but their pitching has pitched extremely well in this game. Hopefully they weren't getting all their runs out of the way in the first game and saving some up for game number 2. But it felt like in that 9th inning, they weren't going to be denied. 0 for 4 through the first 8 innings offensively with runners in scoring position, grounded into 2 double plays. Like I said, it felt like more of the same. But for me, one turning point in this game was when Ollie Marmol got ejected. I think he showed how much he has this team's back. And a lot of people will say, hey, you never want to get ejected as a manager. But there are strategic moments when things will boil over and you need to find a way to get a fire underneath your team. And I think he did just that today in game 1.
I think that's 100% right. And I'm glad you brought that up because It was a situation where you're up 1-0. It's been that kind of game, and you have gotten to this point with your bullpen kind of dancing around the fires a little bit. Kyle Leahy comes in to relieve Miles Mikolas, and then you see Jojo Romero pitch there. It's probably going to be a Ryan Helsley spot, right, in the ninth inning if you're not able to find some insurance. And you'd like to avoid using your closer in a day where you have a doubleheader. You have another game that night because you probably would have him unavailable for that second game, of course. So what do you really have to lose? It's one of those deals where Ollie Marmol had been, probably unhappy about the strike zone all day. I've seen some graphics on Twitter that suggest he was right to not be too happy with the strike zone all day. And so just finding a way to energize the guys and say, hey, I've got your back. I see what you're seeing out there. Let me be the one to take the fall for the impression of the umpire maybe not doing right by y'all. And then you guys just go out there and worry about hitting and worry about what you can control. And I honestly think the pitch that he argued was probably a strike. It was close enough to be one, but that's not really the point. Like, the point is what you said. It's the grander picture of what that represents. And I do think it gives the Cardinals a little bit of a jolt there, and they go on to hit the 3 consecutive home runs. And guess what? You didn't end up needing Ryan Helsley. He could be available for you in a close game tonight.
And I was just about to say the same thing. A game tonight that will feature a starting pitcher making his major league debut, Chase Petty, the right-hander, who's 0-2 with a 3.52 ERA with AAA Louisville, will be making his debut. He does have a Cardinals connection, maybe a Cardinals adjacent connection. He was drafted by the Twins in 2021. He was number 26. He was picked 26th in the first round of that draft by the Minnesota Twins. He was traded to the Reds in March of 2022 for Sonny Gray and Francis Pagaro. He's ranked as the number 99 prospect by MLB Pipeline. So he certainly will have some good stuff up against Steven Matz. But we're not going to just tail off from this game because we've definitely had our fair share of negative to talk about. This is our moment to talk about the positive. This is exactly the type of win the Cardinals needed, the type of win that we've said the Cardinals have not had, where they've separated themselves from the opposition and finally have put a little bit of a gas pedal moment on their season. Hey, here's how we're hitting, and I could see this being a turning point for them, gaining some confidence with the bats on the road.
Yeah, and I'll be very curious. Like, you want to take that same mentality into game 2. That's obviously what you're looking for is to sweep the doubleheader at this point, and then you're in the driver's seat in the 4-game series. I mean, this could be a really important day to kind of shake it all off, shake off this notion of 2-12 on the road. Now it's 3-12, I should say. And Oliver Marmol talking to KMOX yesterday, saying, look, that's not something that we're really thinking about, not something that the guys are talking about. And that's just baseball. It's going to be one of those things that level out. Until it levels out, though, it does become a talking point. And so for the Cardinals to be able to potentially get 2 wins in the same day on the road, Stefan, can go a long way toward going, yeah, this isn't an aspect of who we are as a team. Of course not. There's no reason that we shouldn't be able to do the same principles we do at home and let those translate to road baseball. So the opportunity to be able to do it later tonight is a big one. And you mentioned it, the notion of separating from a team. How many games have they had where they're blowing out the opponent by the time it's all said and done? This wasn't a blowout game, but by the 9th inning, it was, and that was a credit to the offense. It really feels like since Ivan Herrera was in the lineup and they had the big game, they won like 12-5, that we haven't really seen that version of the Cardinals. So it was really good to see that today.
It certainly was, and this is one of those games where the Cardinals can really look back on and say, hey, we did everything we could. Let's control our destiny moving forward. They can guarantee at least a series split with a win tonight, beginning at 5:40 Central Time. We talked about Chase Petty. It's going to be Steven Matz for the Cardinals. I'm very interested in seeing how that all plays out for St. Louis. But a little bit of history for you here. All right, this is from the Wayback Files. All right, this was in the game notes that my dad sent to me before this afternoon's contest. These two teams played a memorable doubleheader in Cincinnati back in September of 1993, September 7th to be exact. In the nightcap of that game, which of course would be game 2 today, Cardinals outfielder, hard-hitting Mark Whiten hit 4 home runs and tied an MLB record with 12 runs batted in. So maybe that will bode well for St. Louis trying to repeat something that happened all those years ago as they look to guarantee at least a series split after winning game 1.
Yeah, that's a fun one. And with the way the Cardinals were swinging the bats this afternoon, you never know. It could possibly be a night where they say, hey, Chase Petty is a guy you haven't probably seen before, has good stuff, but take that same mentality. Alexis Diaz is a good pitcher too, and they found a way to have an approach that was able to be successful against him. I like that comes in the very last inning today, where the Cardinals are kind of riding high. They can take a couple of hours to rest up and get ready for whoever's going to be in the lineup tonight. It's going to be pretty good to see. Mason Wynn's first 2-home-run game. Yes, that is his first 2-homer game at the big league level. Ran through the game logs to confirm that. Didn't remember any. I feel like that would have been something that stuck out, but that does appear to be the case as well. It's a bummer, Stefan. I'm seeing some of these comments where, Donovan's only just a 1 for 12. Why does Nolan Arenado have 4 hits over 7 games? I think the reality is it's hard to see a lineup of 9 all going at the exact same time. But I think a lot of it sort of lines up in this game where you see some of the guys that you mentioned, Mason Wynn, Lars Nootbaar, getting it going right now. Victor Scott is a guy that's been hot, cold at times. You're not necessarily going to be able to look through a lineup of 9, or in the case of the Cardinals, 10, 11, and say, everybody, you're going to be able to find somebody that's maybe on a stretch of 3-4 games where they haven't been at an all-star capacity. But it does feel like the Cardinals have a chance here to take a little bit of this momentum, turn the corner as a unit, and guys who are maybe a little bit of a 1 for 12 or something are going to be able to come around because we know what they're capable too.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, going back to the point that I made earlier, it felt like a game where the Cardinals were being denied. It was a well-managed game by both sides. Terry Francona, 2 successful challenges that were on bang-bang plays for both. So it just goes to show his experience. And Ollie Marmol choosing to get ejected, I mean, he knew what he was doing, helped ignite the Cardinals' spark in the 9th inning. So hats off to both of those guys, and hopefully things continue to go the Redbirds' way and not the Reds' way in game number 3, which we'll touch on here in a moment. But before we get to that, let's talk about DraftKings, who is our title sponsor here at Sports Hub STL. The crown is yours. Baseball season is officially underway, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. So in today's case, if you said Mason Wynn will have more than 1 home run, well, you would have been cashing out good. 4 or less of a stat. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. If you want to download the DraftKings app, the Pick 6 app, and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customer to play. $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So tonight, 5:40 Central Time is first pitch between the Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds. We've talked about consistency, maybe the lack thereof for the Cardinals to start this season, whether it's offense, whether it's pitching, whether it's relief pitching. And again, clutch ejection is the right take, I think.
I love it. Hey, do what you can.
You have to. You have to. But with that being said, you have to continue on with what was done today. You have to use that 9th inning to propel you into game 2 and continue to win. Try and get back into the series. Maybe give yourself a chance to win the series tomorrow, then head back for a long homestand where you can start to creep back toward 500.
Yeah, and look, we're getting questions too about, and we can address this. It might be kind of fun, Stefan, of what we think the road record will end up being by the end of the season. But yeah, this is an opportunity to sort of put that whole road notion behind you. Like, let's say you win today and tomorrow and you take 3 of 4. Okay, sure. You're still whatever that would be, 5-12 on the road. It's not a glowing record, but you can start to see that, this brand of baseball is more than possible to play away from Busch Stadium. But then you do, as you mentioned, get to come back home again and play at the place where you've been able to tangle with good teams like the Phillies, like the Astros. Yeah, sure, you've got the Mets coming to town. I think the Cardinals are going to want to get their lick back on a team like that after what happened to them in Queens. So double headers, Stefan, it seems like those are the ones that we can remember sometimes when seasons turn around. You have a game like this in game 1. There's an opportunity to feel the vibe shift in a dramatic way if you're able to come away with a game 2 win tonight. And I like having Steven Matz on the mound, to be honest, because I think he's a guy that has excelled in whatever role he's been in so far this season. And for me, I'd like to see more of him in a starting role. I know that maybe the the chips are down in terms of him being able to stay in that role the whole time, the whole season, just because of the other implications of maybe needing him more in the bullpen. But the last time they used him in a starting role was April the 16th. It was 2 weeks ago today, and he was scheduled to pitch around 60 pitches. He threw over 70 and was able to get the Cardinals through 5 innings. So his efficiency in a starter role has been exciting to see as well, and I'm anxious to get another look at it, and maybe he can do exactly what Miles Mikolas did this afternoon, Stefan. I think we maybe didn't talk enough about Miles so far in the show, just because the narrative surrounding him has obviously been one that fans have been hard on him. And I'm not saying a lot of that has been entirely unfair. When you have one of your first starts of the season go the way that it did in Boston, everybody's still got kind of the stink of a rough 2024 in their minds when it comes to this pitcher. Had an ERA of 5.35. Like, we definitely understand that. You see a guy like Michael McGreevy in AAA that you're thinking, that should be his spot. Like, a lot of those feelings, I think there's been validity to them. But when a guy is going out and doing what Miles Mikolas is doing, it's a results business, Stefan. You know this, and I think the results he's getting kind of speak for themselves right now.
And we may look back at the end of the season at that outing in Game 2 of the doubleheader in Boston and say this was the best thing that could have happened to Miles Mikolas. It definitely has ignited something in him that has made him a more prime version of himself. The last 4 starts have been impeccable. He's given the Cardinals a chance to win every single time, and that's probably why we haven't had as much conversation about Mikolas, is because a lot of the time that he's pitched well, but the Cardinals haven't done enough to help him, whether it's run support or relief pitching, that we've touched on other topics. We've kind of glanced over it and said, hey, Mikolas pitched well tonight, but in this case, he pitched well today. The Cardinals did enough at the end of the game, and Miles' ERA is below 5. Well, it was below 5 about into the 3rd or 4th inning of this game. So
yeah, I'm
excited to see how he continues to build on that.
I think he's down to 4.6. And again, that's a mind-blowing stat. I understand how it sounds when you say, hey, if you just take this away, here are the numbers, because everybody's going to say, well, yeah, I mean, you just took away the worst outing by any starter in MLB this season, arguably. But that only hurt the Cardinals for one day. That hurt the Cardinals in one game of one day. And you look at the other outings, 2.39. That's the collective earned run average. I'll take that. Now, he's got to continue to have the good ones to counterweight the bad one. I think if you get to 10 starts and that's still your only real blow up, all right, he might be allowed another one. Then you got to go 9 or 10 more where you don't do it again. But that can still be productive to a team. You mentioned it. The Cardinals haven't won his games, but that's not his fault. You can look across the course of their rotation, and that's been true. We talked about, and this is still the case, Stefan, where the quality starts, when the Cardinals get them, they haven't necessarily been rewarded for them the way that you'd like to see. And today was not a quality start for Mikolas. That might be the one still distinction you could make compared to Miles Mikolas when he was in his prime. Because in his prime, he was a 200-inning guy. He was that workhorse innings eater for the St. Louis Cardinals that would have an ERA in the 3s or wherever it would be, but he would throw 200 innings for you, and that can be a value to a team. I think at this stage, that's not the guy that he is. Oliver Marmol was still pretty proactive in getting him out of the game early today, and I think he was 77, whatever the pitch count was. That's the right move. We know the numbers with Mikolas the 3rd time through. It's okay to say, hey, hit the showers after 5 1/3. Let Leahy clean up this damage, and you're home free with a 0 earned run mark on the day. That's okay to have from a guy that's on the lower portion of your rotation, if you consider him the number 5 starter or the number 6 or the number 4. However you mentally view that as a Cardinals fan, that is production that the Cardinals can not only live with, but excel with if the bats continue to do their job like they eventually were able to do today.
Right, the bullpen has looked better, and I believe that you mean Kyle Everydayhe, not
Kyle Everydayhe.
Out
Thank
there,
you,
Kyle Everydayhe. We'll see how they approach game number 2, which will be interesting. Steven Matz, and of course we have Chase Petty, who's making his major league debut. Great opportunity for the Cardinals on the next 2 games with Liberatore tomorrow, and of course Matz today. But I can tell you're just itching to make a point, so let's do that point here, Brenden.
Everydayhe, I feel like that is the way that it should stick because of his ability to pitch every day when called upon. But if Oliver Marmol wants to really get cheeky, use him tonight, Kyle twice a day. It's just an idea, probably not recommended with the amount of work that he's gotten, but I do think that the nickname could potentially catch on. Otherwise, we'll stick with Everydayhe. Speaking of Ollie, though, I want to get your take on the leap over the dugout railing from Oliver Marmol. Pretty athletic. I thought that's a bold move. I wasn't surprised to see him do it. I was thinking I could probably do that. I think I could leap that dugout railing. But to do it in front of a crowded stadium, in front of everybody and the cameras and everything like that, you got to know you're going to stick the landing. I thought that was pretty good by Ollie Marmol today. You've already been ejected. Go get your money's worth.
Let's not give him too much credit. He's one of the youngest managers in Major League Baseball. I mean, he should be able to go out and do that. If he could expect Nolan Arenado to go out and hit walk-off home runs, then he could jump over a railing. But no, it was a whole lot of fun to watch. He was spry and ready to go. And if you spend any time with Ollie, it's not a surprise at all about his ability to jump over a railing and defend his players. But tonight, of huge importance for the Cardinals to try and get back on track, to try and get back to 3 games within 500. And they're going to need the offense. They're going to need the slug. It's been missing all year. It came back today. And we'll see how that plays out in game number 2. Are there any thoughts that you have about what the Cardinals need to do to attack this young pitcher in his major league debut?
I feel like when they had gotten into some lulls of their season, because remember, they started pretty hot in terms of that first homestand. They were scoring runs pretty consistently. I believe they tried to set that NL record for the most games in a row to begin a season with 4 or more runs. They didn't quite get there, but they were close. So we saw a consistent version of the Cardinals. That was with Ivan Herrera. They're hoping to get him back. He's going to go out on a rehab assignment later this week, and that'll be a nice boost, hopefully, to the lineup when he returns. But the way you do it is, I think you have to attack the good pitches and spit on the bad ones. Like it's a simple aspect of a plate approach, but it feels like the Cardinals, when things have been going the other way recently, they get too much into their heads a little bit, and it feels like they're on cruise control. You see a pitch go by, and you go, that might have been the one to swing at, and then you start to get a little bit antsy because you're waiting for that next one to come that's going to be hittable, and you might have already seen it. You got to be able to jump on the good pitches when they're there. It's just part of being comfortable in the box with plate approach. I think this is something that is preached by Brant Brown. I think they're going to continue to get a handle on it as time goes on this one, Stefan, but that seems to be the way you'd want to approach a young pitcher, right? If this guy's coming in for his debut, you're going to see him go one of 2 ways. He's going to be pounding the strike zone and have some confidence with his off-speed stuff. Or what happens if you can sense from him a little bit of timidness, a little bit of tentative nature out there on the mound? Make him throw you strikes before you're swinging at them. Just be able to take the good pitches that he has to eventually give you if you're not chasing and do something with them. I think that's going to be the name of the game for the Cardinals in the night game, almost regardless of who is in the lineup for this team in game 2. And Nathan was asking about Ryan Fernandez. The Redbirds, I was checking the scores, had an offensive explosion last night with 7 runs over the first 2 innings. They win 9-6 over Louisville. And Fernandez did get into that game. He had a scoreless inning. That's the good news. 2 strikeouts is the even better news. 2 walks is the news that you go, all right, you want to see him continue to hone in that command. But yes, Ryan Fernandez did get into a game last night for those who are curious about him. And 15 hits for the Redbirds in that game last night with Thomas Ajayci supplying a couple of them was nice to see as well.
Well, that might bode well for the Cardinals, winning against the AAA affiliate and the Major League team today. So to your point about the Cardinals being more selective, 7 walks here in this afternoon's contest, only 5 strikeouts. You didn't see them extending much. You didn't see them getting too comfortable ahead in the count and trying to swing and pop up. You did see a couple of double plays, which was frustrating at the beginning of the game. But I thought by and large it was a well-played game, especially in the later stages. You look at how the bullpen performed. Look at what Leahy did. Jojo Romero is one that might fly under the radar. He's pitched well in his last couple of outings. And, of course, Matt Swanson has done nothing yet to make you scratch your head. He has looked very good in his first few Major League outings. Now, tonight, you have the guy making his Major League debut in Chase Petty. And Petty, I think, is one of those pitchers that has turned into a sinker-slider guy. He has been a player that has really been talked about by the Reds. When he was first coming out of high school, he was throwing 102, despite a smaller frame at 6'1". So he's going to have an arsenal that will keep you off balance. He's had good numbers, good stuff in Louisville. His last time out for the Louisville Bats was very, very good. And so the Cardinals are going to have to find a way to get after him. Steven Matz, on the other hand, he's looked decent against the Reds, 4-1 with a 4.4 ERA, 30 strikeouts, 6 appearances versus Cincinnati in his career. So I think both guys are going to be hungry. They're going to be ready to go against the opposition, and we'll see who the better team is in game number 3 of this series and game 2 of the doubleheader.
Certainly will, and I expect we'll get a good version of Steven Matz. I'm excited to see him pitch. And then, obviously, you mentioned the bullpen kind of as an after the fact, but they have silently kind of settled things down recently after a rough road trip previously. I want to jump in on this comment. I shouldn't necessarily always acknowledge the comments like this, but I do feel like it's important to point out because Craig is claiming that until this season, Mikolas was the absolute worst starting pitcher in MLB for 3 years. And he claims it's not hyperbole, it's fact. But part of those 3 years is the 2022 season in which he was an all-star and threw 200 innings and had a 3.29 ERA. When you want to criticize a player, I think it's fair game. Like, these guys are highly paid, and if you're a Cardinal fan, you put your fandom on the line, you put your money out there when you support the team. I'm okay with criticizing players. I really am. Just be factual. Don't claim something is hyperbole or is not hyperbole, but is fact when it is in fact hyperbole. To say that a guy who in a 3-year stretch was the worst when he was an all-star in one of those 3 years, just talk about the last 2 years in which he's really struggled. And you could say, yeah, he had a collective 5 ERA in 23 and 24, needs to improve upon that 100%. But just get your facts right, because in 2022, he was a very good pitcher. And even in 23, when obviously the ERA ballooned on him, still to throw 200 innings does provide value to a rotation. So, Craig, we appreciate you watching, but maybe other hosts won't do it. I'm going to always be the guy that when I see a factual inaccuracy and you're so fired up about it, I'm going to go, that's not true. Go look at the numbers. It's just not true.
Well, and if you want to look at this year as well, right? I can think of about 15 to 20 teams that would love to have a guy that 5 times out of 6 this year has gone out giving you 5 innings and 3 or less runs.
Yeah, you can't get firebombed. That's it. It's Stefan. You can't get firebombed the one time. Like, that can't happen again. Or we're having a very different conversation about Miles Mikolas. But the fact that he's getting swing and miss now, 4 strikeouts today is a far cry compared to what he had been. I feel like that is an aspect of this that maybe suggests he's here to maybe not here to stay. Like, will he do this all season? Hopefully so. But is it something that he found and is able to kind of use to his advantage against the majority of lineups? Is it still going to be a challenge when he faces teams like the Red Sox? Yeah, perhaps. But there's some guys that can bite you in this Reds lineup too. And he deserves the credit for when he has performed the way that he has since that game that was so rough. That's an aspect of this that I do think is worth considering.
Well, and there's got to be an element of he knows that there are some frustrations. He's not oblivious to it. He's talked to the media about it. He's talked to Katie Wu about it, and he's gone out and performed. There are a lot of players out there that, yes, care about their ERA and care about performing, but when you're making money, you've already signed your contract. You already know you're going to be making that contract, and you could very easily say, whatever, doesn't matter. That's not Miles Mikolas. He's gone to work, and he's retooled himself and continued to provide value for this team. Now, talking about somebody else that's provided value, and I feel like he's a player that over the last 4 or 5 games, even in that series in Atlanta, has played extremely well. Victor Scott. He is turning into a phenomenal, not just defender, but offensive player before our eyes. 10 steals before the month of May. I mean, this guy is doing everything you want him to do and then some.
Yeah, he's a fun player. And when we saw the version of Victor Scott, the second that we saw in spring training, sort of this notion of like, all right, what if those tools all come together? Because we know that the defense is going to be very good. I still see some rawness to his defense at times where with a jump, he maybe misreads something initially, but his athleticism is so tremendous that he's almost always going to be able to make the adjustment midair and then catch the ball and make the play that's needed. He's going to continue to improve in that regard. We know it's a strength of his game. His base running and his speed is a unique talent. It's one of the rarest elements in the game of baseball in terms of his ability to run, is up there with the tops in the sport. His hit tool is interesting because I don't know if he was a guy necessarily with what we saw last year in his big league opportunities that we would have projected to be a guy that could come up with the power swings like we have seen going back to spring. It's not maybe happening all the time like it did during the Grapefruit League, but it's consistent enough. Like, it's a factor in a facet of his game where he's a guy that, you play a full season, would not be surprised at all to see him in the double digits for home runs. And certainly his speed makes him a threat to be a doubles and triples hitter as well.
Well, not to mention in spring training, you aren't always seeing major league pitching. And I think Victor has done a really good job with the major league pitching he has seen and keeping defenses on their toes, right? He can lay down a bunt for a hit every once in a while as the defense plays back. He's done a really nice job of taking what the defense has given him. And even if he puts the ball on the ground with a runner on first and nobody out, it's going to be tough to double him up. So he's a fun player to watch, a unique talent to watch. Oh, and by the way, he has more home runs this year than Alec Burleson, than Nolan Gorman, than some of the left-handed power guys that you expect. And that's what you want to see out of a guy that you expect to be the future center fielder of the St. Louis Cardinals.
The future and the present one now because of the ability to help the Cardinals win games in 2025. I can't say like we're shocked that he is developing into a really nice player because when he first came up and we was a prospect, That's how we were talking about it. But the fact that it's happened so quickly after a season in which the numbers just didn't look like any of us wanted to see them or the way he expected them to go is really impressive. The work that he put in the offseason is evident in the way that he's going out there and being a real force for the Cardinals right now. And to have a guy like that toward the bottom of your lineup, too, is a nice weapon to have. It's a luxury for this Cardinals team that, hey, you get a guy like Herrera back in there. Now suddenly you're going, well, should they bat Mason Wynn second? He looks really good there. Man, Wilson Contreras, they didn't actually need to move him down because he was doing well in the 2-hole with the 10-game hitting streak that he put together. Okay, well, where does Herrera go in? Like, suddenly the depth of that lineup is going to be a facet that I think we're going to be talking about more and more. And Victor Scott is a big part of that as well.
Well, and he has become a perfect number 9 hitter, getting on base, setting the table for the top of the order again. The final point I'll make about Victor Scott, and it goes hand in hand with what you were just saying about not expecting him to be where he is at this point in time. I remember having a conversation with my dad last year, and he said, if he can hit 200 and play great defense, get on base, he'll be fine. Well, he's doing all those things, and he's hitting 275. So I love what I'm seeing from Victor Scott. He has been great. Hopefully he can continue that this evening in game number 2. Any final thoughts before we head off here on the Cards Up Postgame Show?
You know, this was a fun one to watch. It was fun to watch the Cardinals play a close game, and there was some frustration in there, too, some double plays, some spots where they maybe didn't come up with the most. But I think at the end of it, you saw what the Cardinals are capable of being. Are they going to be a team that hits 3 home runs every inning? No. But I also think that is a sign of the potential to hit for some pop in this lineup. And hey, we do know Ivan Herrera returning relatively soon, going out on the rehab this week. But he's no longer the team leading home runs, Steph. And Lars Nootbaar with his homer today did take that away from him with his 5th home run of the season. So there is at least that to consider. Maybe Mason Wynn wants to pass him up now because he's already up to 4 as well.
Well, we love to see it. We love to see it from the Cardinals, who take game 1 of the doubleheader 6-0, a shutout, their 2nd shutout victory of the year, their 3rd win on the road. Looking for number 4 for everybody here at Sports Hub STL, which is powered by DraftKings. The crown is yours. This has been the Cards Hub Postgame Show presented by Hot Shots. Game 2, 5:40 Central Time for Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Stefan Caray. We'll see you later on. Cardinals look to win the doubleheader.